Hello, dear friends. Current technology seems very primitive compared to the notion of point zero. Opinion piece: infinite free energy, perpetual motion, zero point energy, scalar force of the void. The key could be the ether. The void is full of energy. This keeps scientists awake at night. Let's start. The Creator has always given us abundant free energy everywhere. It has only been our blindness that has prevented us from seeing and using that generous source. According to retired Lieutenant Colonel Tom Berden, we could never have needed fossil fuels since the 1950s. He spent his life trying to convince modern science that the vacuum is not a void, but a fullness. He was an underappreciated genius. Tom Berden was born on December 17, 1930, and grew up in Chenier, Louisiana. He worked in nuclear engineering and in various theoretical and philosophical fields. He constructed stationary electromagnetic generator that operated on its own as well as powering a load without the application of external electrical power. Berden claimed that he did not violate the first law of thermodynamics because he extracted vacuum energy from the immediate surroundings. The first and second principle of thermodynamics state that energy cannot be created or destroyed, and that there is always energy loss in the form of heat in any system. Berden later founded and directed the Alpha Foundation's Institute for Advanced Studies to spread his theories. This group has published articles in well-known physics journals and in books published by leading publishers. Energy of the vacuum. There is a lot of talk about the mysterious vacuum energy that keeps scientists awake at night. Unusual physical phenomena and other unexpected things have revealed that the void, far from having nothing, is a book of surprises. When talking about emptiness, we imagine an empty space full of nothing, so to speak. But it is not like that at all. The void is full of things. Ether was considered a chemical element in Dmitry Mendelev's first periodic table. Historically, ether was considered a substance that fills empty space in the universe. The ether was thought to be the medium through which electromagnetic waves, such as light, propagated, and to be the primordial energy of the universe. It is said that many perpetual motion machines would be based on the ether. Leonardo da Vinci designed several drawings of devices that he hoped would generate free energy. In 1900, Nikola Tesla claimed to have discovered an abstract principle on which to base a perpetual motion machine. He described a self-active machine, inanimate but capable, like a living being, of obtaining energy from the environment, the ideal way to obtain motive power. Theory. There is technology to obtain zero-point or scalar-free energy from a vacuum, but classical electromagnetism doesn't recognize that the vacuum is full of energy. The idea of obtaining energy from zero-point or vacuum is a concept that has been explored in theories of physics and in the free energy literature. The notion of zero point is related to quantum vacuum energy, which is a concept in quantum physics. According to this theory, even in absolute empty space, quantum energy fluctuations exist. However, these fluctuations are extremely small and difficult to exploit in practice. There are many ways to extract energy from a vacuum. In particle physics, it is well known that the active vacuum is incredibly energetic. Calculations by leading physicists like Wheeler show that the cubic centimeter of vacuum contains so much raw energy that if it were condensed into matter, there would be more matter than is observable in the universe through the largest telescope. There is enough energy within the space of an empty cup to boil all the world's oceans. This is a fact well known to physicists. So, even a small extraction efficiency could and will extract all the energy anyone could want. In particle physics, it has been known for decades that there is no equilibrium in mass systems unless the interaction of vacuum with masses is included. Perpetual motion. Perpetual motion refers to a concept in physics that describes a system or device that can continue moving indefinitely without the need for an external source of energy. In other words, a perpetual motion would be a system that could generate its own energy to keep moving constantly without ever running out. Perpetual motion machines are devices or inventions that are designed with the idea that they can operate indefinitely without the need for a source of external power. In other words, these machines are supposed to be able to generate enough energy to keep moving continuously without depleting their resources. The history of perpetual motion machines dates back to at least the Middle Ages. Perpetual motion devices have been built for millennia, but modern theories of thermodynamics have denied the evidence. Despite this, many attempts have been made to build such machines, which continue in modern times. History. Bhaskara, a 7th century Indian mathematician and astronomer, invented a water wheel that looked like a perpetual motion device. Villard de Honnecourt, a 13th century French architect, left sketches of a perpetual motion machine. A perpetual motion machine called a magic wheel that rotates on its axis, powered by magnets, appeared in 8th century Bavaria. The Italian Marc Anthony Zimara, from the 16th century, proposed an autonomous windmill. In 1607, Cornelius Drebbel dedicated a perpetual motion machine to James I of England. Robert Boyle devised the perpetual glass or hydrostatic paradox in 1685. Johann Bernoulli proposed a fluid energy machine. In 1686, George Andreas Buckler designed a self-propelled water mill and several perpetual motion machines using ball variants of Archimedean screws. The German Orpheus built a perpetual wheel in the 1710s. The 18th century German Jacob Leopold wrote about perpetual motion machines. In the 1760s, James Cox and John Joseph Merlin developed a clock that operated on changes in atmospheric pressure via a mercury barometer. In 1827, Sir William Congreve devised a machine that worked by capillary action and that disobeyed the principle that water seeks its own level. In 1868, an Austrian, Alois Drasch, designed a machine that had a push-button type gear from a rotatory engine to propel a vehicle. In the mid-20th century, Victor Schauberger, in the beginning, not in the mid, Victor Schauberger studied vortices in water. He discovered that fluids flow through special pipes without much resistance. In 1958, Otis Carr of Oklahoma formed a company to manufacture a UFO-style spacecraft and hovercraft and promoted free energy machines. In 1966, Joseph Papp developed a car engine that used inert gases. Paul Bowman a German engineer, developed the Swiss ML converter. Canadian David Hamel developed an anti-gravity device in the 70s. In Spain, in 1971, the Spanish engineer Arturo Estevez Varela presented an engine that worked slowly with water and boron electrolysis. Howard Robert Johnson developed a perpetual magnet motor on April 24, 1979. In 2002, the Genesis World Energy Group claimed to have 400 people developing a device that split water into oxygen and hydrogen using less energy than previously thought possible. In 2006, Stern Limited claimed to have built a device based on rotating magnets. In June 2008, the Japanese company Genepax introduced a car that it claimed runs only on water and air. A water engine is an engine that obtains its energy indirectly from water through a process of electrolysis. Proponents of water-powered cars point to the abundance and low cost of water, but it has very stable bonds that resist most backlash. We are from the future. Annie Colater, founder of the Center for the Leap of Consciousness, is sure that the vast majority of us who are incorporating QFS are from the future. Many of us are intuitive empaths. "I had the call" is a common phrase that suggests that there was a remote transmission and those of us who had it were activated by our mission here. What is our mission? It has to do with raising consciousness to correct what will happen in the future if we do not change the current pathways that are created from the thoughts that produce our feelings, which then produce emotions, followed by behaviors and actions that impact the atomic level. We are managing the introduction of a new monetary system, and that requires greater frequency so that we are providing resources for development. Every time we move to a frequency, thoughts impact at an atomic level. We are an energetic group that is saving space for the system to be born. We are moving towards using solidarity metrics. It is no longer about profits and losses, although we still have the opportunity to think in those terms. There is nothing more important that we must realize that we are here to learn energy mastery so that we can live in our true nature. Economy. Delinquencies on auto loans, cards, and consumer credit have reached their highest level in a decade. According to Goldilocks, the purpose of money is in our use as a medium of exchange to purchase goods and services at values predetermined by the value placed on the agreed upon transaction itself. Today, we live in a time when those values are being questioned and forced to change around the world. Currencies in the East are now being used as a medium of value, and their values are being determined based on the exchange rate through the supply and demand for them. The creation of new values is determined by the people who use this money and those who govern it. Because these changes are occurring, there is no doubt that a global financial reset is needed. The question for many people is not if this will happen, but when. The simple answer is that we are already in the process. About 90% of traded goods are transported via weights. This is the place where exports and imports modify the prices of goods and services according to the demands placed on them. Our shipping ports are becoming increasingly digitalized over time. The movement of money is increasing demand, so that supply reaches its destination at a faster rate due to this digital integration. Be careful with the water. China. Wall Street Silver's Peter St. Onge says China's 40-year economic boom is over and explains the crisis. China's 40-year economic boom appears to be over, with signs of deflation and the possible prolonged slowdown. As the Chinese government clamps down on internet and financial companies like Alibaba, ordinary Chinese are losing confidence in the government's ability to handle the situation. With private enterprise shrinking, foreign investment declining, and youth unemployment rising, China faces significant challenges ahead. Xinfu talks about China injuring the West because they won't destroy its economy. While the West calls for China to launch a massive stimulus program, China continues to tiptoe around the situation by only cutting interest rates. While China might try to lower mortgage rates, they probably won't bail out their property developers to protect their economic future. Here is why China is defying the West and why its refusal of a full stimulus bailout could collapse the global economy. Atlantis report: the Evergrande Group, the world's most indebted real estate developer, has reported a significant reduction in its net losses for the first half of 2023, thanks to an increase in income due to a brief boom earlier this year. But its shares still plunged more than 70% on Monday, August 28th, when it resumed operations after a 17-month suspension, even as shares of most Chinese real estate companies traded higher after a series of announcements of weekend by officials aimed at boosting demand for properties. For years, the Shenzhen-based company was one of China's largest property developers in terms of sales, but it had taken on too much debt to finance its expansion and defaulted on its debt in 2021, triggering a crisis in China's real estate sector, which accounted for up to 30% of the country's economy. A month ago, he filed for bankruptcy in the US. And that's all for today. Thanks a lot, dear friends.